David? Okay. So I wanted to, the opportunity to speak here. The topic that we were given to frame this conversation was what's our vision for the future for technology, and knowing a lot of people in the room or knowing a lot of their work. I mean, I think, no disrespect, but any of us are interchangeable with as many people in the room as possible. When I had the opportunity to speak, I wanted to share the story that I was really excited because I wanted to introduce something to you all today that was going to change the way that we learn. It was really exciting because it'll change our schools completely. It'll change also the way we live our lives. Now, anyone can create information for others to see. We're no longer restricted to learning by ourselves at our desk with a book in hand. With this new technology, teachers will be able to reach many more students than ever before. When new information is learned, you won't have to wait for your book to be printed. You'll be able to share it with any students immediately. If something changes or you make a mistake, you can just erase it and you can rewrite it all over again. But it'll be more effective and more influential than anything we've ever seen before. And if knowledge is power, now you can share it with so many more people than ever before, because we're truly living in powerful times with endless opportunities. And this is paraphrasing, basically, a talk given to an education board in the year 1800 with the advent of the chalkboard. And it was seen in that way that was what's going to happen. And, I mean, for a book that I think is really important for us to be familiar with is by Larry Cuban, Overused and Undersold. And he basically stresses in the book that despite all the changes that have occurred in technology, that education and learning has fundamentally stayed the same throughout time. And I'm an educator. I'm a Jewish educator, and I'm not a techie. I speak. But there's something about the work that I do now which has drawn me into this world, and I can't escape it whether I wanted to or not. And one of the things that I feel problematic about the discussion today, and John said in our prep, was don't hold any. But what we think has created a further dichotomy between the geeks and the educators, and I don't think that's really helpful. So I want to try and stress what we need to actually, no offense to my geeky friends, by the way, I want to try and really, I think that's the case. Look, there are two views. On one hand, we've heard a lot of people today say that the chalkboard, like TV, like exactly the same. It's what we're seeing today is another iteration, another evolution of technology. That's a good view. I happen not to believe it. I think there is fundamentally something taking place in the world today which stands all that other technology and changes the whole dynamic of, one, most importantly for me, what it means to be Jewish in the world today. And if that's the case, it has to change the way we live and learn being Jewish in the world today. And if we can't reconcile ourselves with the fact that it's not just evolution, that there is a revolution taking place. And the reason we're so far behind as a Jewish community is not because we don't have enough Jews involved in technology. Proportionately, there are probably more Jews involved in technology endeavor than any other religious or ethnic group. The reason we're so behind is the institutions who control what it means to be Jewish in the world today don't want to lose grip and their grasp on knowledge, authority, and tech information. And with all due respect to Professor Sham, I really, there's something taking place which is changing the ball game in which we live. There are three aspects of this discussion which I think are really important. One is the hardware, two is the software, and three are the educators. Yeah? Look, there are many schools out there, when I talk to them about technology, they simply tell me they don't have computers, don't have wireless, our bandwidth is not big enough. Thank you for the Legacy Heritage Fund, but we still don't have enough whiteboards, like whatever it might be. So there's a hardware issue that we can produce as many applications as we possibly want, but there are some places out there which simply don't have the hardware. Two, the software. I listened to the presentations before, and look, Dan and Meredith produced for us a whole lot of technology applications which match exactly what Jewish learning looked like. There was nothing new about the educational paradigm they presented. It doesn't change learning. We shouldn't belittle ourselves as educators in this room by telling ourselves that the technology people have all of the answers. There needs to be a bit more humility amongst the Jewish tech people out there to actually talk to the educators and see what's actually needed. We can produce as many applications as we possibly like, but there was nothing. If we're still The purpose of Jewish education technology is to teach a Jewish kid how to read their bar of misproportion. Although it's only an example, that's not Jewish education. Yeah, that's an old model of what it means to be Jewish. Frankly, irrelevant to the vast majority of the Jews in North America today, let alone the rest of the world. It's not that it's not important, but that's not what we're talking about here today. We have to be talking about a radical shift in Jewish life, and then the technology will have to respond to that in conversation with the educators, not setting up this artificial dichotomy. The three of the educators, who are they, where are they coming? I don't want to go into it now. Enough people say there just aren't enough Jewish educators who can even ask the right questions. Yeah, so that's the flip where the educators need to know what they should be asking. But it's not a matter of not having enough software ideas out there. The educators can't even think in the terms that they need. So there needs to be a marriage between the educators and the software creators. And that there needs to be a common ground. And again, the dichotomy is unhelpful. So we're asked to suggest some possibilities and then some limitations or challenges. So I'll just suggest 5 possibilities that I see being out there and then a couple of limitations. Possibility number 1 in the world of education technology that I see is the unmediated Jewish educational experience. That's exactly what Dan was referring to. Some people call it push technology, whatever it is, that it's people sending out information to the recipient. It's fairly passive. It doesn't actually change learning, but there are people out there who want material coming to them, whether it's via an app or whatever it is, and I just don't think we're producing fast enough and varied enough. At the moment, majority of the Jewish applications out there are all, not all, majority of them are religious in nature and orthodox by default, if you like, and that's just what the population all needs or wants. The second is the online Jewish gaming, virtual world sphere of things. I don't think we can dismiss it and say Second Life is a fad. I'm not Second Life, I'm not a close person to Second Life, but what we can learn from virtual world, virtual experiences and the online gaming world, and it's not an either-or scenario. I don't understand it now, then we're going to miss a whole generation of people. The third, the world of online publishing. Besides the physical harm that textbooks are actually doing to our children today in terms of damaging their backs, they're all outdated. We cannot possibly keep up with a printed textbook, and we need to invest in online Jewish publishing just to keep up with new information that's being discovered on a regular basis. The fourth possibility is imagination and innovation. We need to be paid to think. The educators in the room need to be able to have, I thought it was 20% of their time that Google gave instead of 10%, maybe it's gone down. But we need time to actually take a step back from our work to be able to imagine, and imagination takes time. And the fifth is recruitment of a new generation of Jewish educators. Just to share the experience I have with Jewish service people. So we convened a whole lot of Jewish service learning professionals, and one of the things we found was they all had their start in the general service learning arena. Yeah, they all happen to be Jewish, but they're all trained by the service learning organizations of the world, and then they decided to come back to the Jewish world. So why don't we find those Jewish geeks out there, techies, who have not had the opportunity to come into the Jewish community, pay them accordingly, and then get them, because people today want jobs that make meaning, that have meaning and make a difference, and I think that's it.